Okay, so my name is Stephanie Croney. I am currently the one of the graduate fellow recipients at the African American Research Library and Cultural Center in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. I'll refer to the library as AARLCC because that's a mouthful every time. I'm also the soon-to-be independent scholar in residence that will start January of this upcoming year, and I'm also a humanities professor at Miami-Dade College. Oh, that's me. That was supposed to say that when I was up. Okay, now you can go to the next slide. Okay, so answering the call. So on April 3rd, 2025, an inquiry came into the library and it reads, I'm reaching out on behalf of the Sijuwade royal family of Ile-Ife as we prepare to commemorate the 10th anniversary of the passing of His Royal Majesty, Oba Okunadi Sijuwade Olubushe II. As part of the memorial, the family is organizing a grand exhibition and a series of events to honor his legacy. Given the esteemed relationship between His Majesty and your mother, the family wonders if you might have any photos, documents, or other materials related to him that could contribute to this historic commemoration. These materials will help in preserving his memory and showcasing his impact. Now, this email was originally sent to Dr. Sudarkasa's son, Michael, who then forwarded on over to AARLCC because in 2006, Dr. Sudarkasa had donated a vast part of her collection to the actual archive. Now, this inquiry had come in during my first week during the fellowship, and I was asked to kind of poke around and dig around in the archive. So I wasn't familiar with the way that the archive was set up, nor was I familiar with any of the documents, and talking about 400 boxes that had not been processed. So this was literally like a mission, like needle in the haystack, right? I didn't know what I was looking for and how to begin to look for it. However, on a particular day, the archivist had gone home, and I was a day away from my own deadline that I had given myself to actually find something significant to then actually get over to the royal family. But I took a deep moment. I remember this afternoon, I just took a deep moment. Everybody was gone. I was in the vault. And I was like, okay, Dr. Sudarkasa, it's just me and you. Show me what I need. And in a few minutes before calling it quits, I noticed this little sticky note sticking up from like one of the bins. And I had not noticed it. I had been going to the library, leaving one job for weeks on end. And it was that particular day after I had made that statement that I saw the little sticky note. And it kept catching my eye and kept catching my eye. And when I actually went to it, it said Yeye Olokun Igbadero. And I'm like, yo, that's her Yoruba name. I knew that that box had what it is that I was looking for. And also the title Yeye Olokun Igbadero means mother of Olokun, bringer of prosperity. It was at that moment that I also realized that Dr. Sudarkasa's special collection was special indeed, and that these bins were not just filled with documents and publications, but rather her essence, her energy, her memories. And when approached with that foresight, not only could I access these memories, but the archive operated as a portal that allowed me to travel through time. So this is one of the photos that I actually found. The entire bin, there was an entire photo that commemorated when she actually became chief and made daughter of Ile-Ife by the Oba, by the king during that time. And then there were other documents, but I just want to show you all for some context. So this is the Oba, and then that is Dr. Sudarkasa. You can go to the next one. So my presentation today is What If Memory Could Mentor? Dr. Niara Sudarkasa's written archive as academic blueprint and intellectual testimony. My presentation examines the archival process and how it works in tandem with accessing the memories of the person in review, which in my case is Dr. Sudarkasa. I had been assigned to her special collections at the start of my fellowship back in April of this year. Now, I had never heard of Dr. Sudarkasa, but after processing documents that she had left behind, we and her had become rather acquainted. Okay, so she is a Fort Lauderdale native. She was born as Gloria Marshall. She was raised by her Bahamian grandparents who fostered the significance of having a proper education. Marshall entered Fisk University at the age of 15, and then moving on to Oberlin College, where she was introduced to the African diaspora. Thus, she changed her major from English to sociology and anthropology. It was during her studies at Oberlin where her mission in life was ignited. Gloria went on to do many great things. Not only did she attend Columbia University, but became the first African American woman to be appointed as assistant professor of anthropology, and then again, assistant professor of anthropology at the University of Michigan. She was also the first African American woman to be the associate director of the Center of African American Studies from 1978 to 1981. And in 1986, Dr. Sudarkasa was the first African American woman president of Lincoln University in Pennsylvania, and the list goes on. So I just wanted to give you just a little bit of background about her. Not many people have heard of her, but I at least wanted you to know who it is that I was speaking about and for this presentation. Also, you'll notice I'll go between Marshall and Dr. Sudarkasa. She was born Gloria Marshall, but then somewhere, and I have not found the document just yet, but somewhere between 1971 and 1972, she changed her name to Niara Sudarkasa. Oh yeah, and so all the facts that I am sharing with you all generate from our primary sources directly from her archive. So basically, a lot of the information that I do have, these are direct documents that she actually left behind, right? She typed up her resume in this email. There's an interview about her, and this is directly where I'm getting the information from to actually build this project. So what this does, these documents such as resumes, written interviews, and emails that I have processed, they do two things. One, they provide credible information that can be accurately shared with the public, and it also maintains the integrity of Dr. Sudarkasa's legacy. So this is basically part of the archival process. So normally when I look through a bin, it normally isn't set up like this. I had to organize this. It's just a bunch of random documents that have not been processed. A lot of times they come with paper clips and staples in them that have oxidized and rust over time, because I'm digging through documents that were processed 1967, 1972. I have to remove all of that, put plastic clips such as this, something that won't rust over time. I kind of go through all of the documents and figure out how they need to be categorized. Then I'll put the accession number for her collection, where it's from, the subject, and then we number the folders, of course, in numerical order once everything has been processed. The actual folders are for the preservation of the documents themselves. Sometimes it doesn't show it here. Sometimes if a paper is just really rusty or in bad condition, we take these protective papers and we stick them in between, so that way they can actually go into a vault that is climate controlled. So the series that I had the opportunity of processing is from the University of Michigan for their Center for African American and African Studies. I'll also call it CAS for short, if you hear me saying that from now on. The written materials in the Sudarkasa collections archive forms an academic blueprint. It's actually showing that an archive is more than a place to store documents. You can go to the next one. It becomes a living structure for, let me go to the next one, structure for scholarly thought, institutional memory, and cultural development. So when activated intentionally, the archive becomes more than just preserving past scholarship, like correspondence, drafts, and institutional records. These materials reveal not just what was studied, but how inquiry was shaped, challenged, and refined. So you can go to the next one. So for instance, this document, as you can see, like I said, you see how the staple is like all oxidized and stuff in there. I have to remove those, put in the plastic clip. I'm not going to go over the entire document, but this is something that was drafted at the start of CAS, that center. It didn't always exist. So basically, this document is saying that the Afro-American Studies Department is unique in that it is not just another academic department within the university. It is comparable to other university departments because it is the first legitimized academic structure created specifically to enable Black students to have the resources and knowledgeable personnel necessary to broaden knowledge of self. However, this center at the time was basically sort of Harvard's way of sort of quelling the tension after the assassination of Martin Luther King. They thought that they could ease the tension of Blacks by providing them a center, just kind of throwing them a bone. However, Dr. Sudarkasa, a lot of the faculty and students, they weren't with it whatsoever, right? And Dr. Sudarkasa, go to the next slide, please, actually took the time to help really build the center and what it is today. It's actually a department now, but at the time it was a center. A lot of the documents that you see are just showing one page of it because it's just a picture, but they're like thick packets of her actually building the center little by little. She was the secretary, she was the director, she did emails, she took full charge sort of creating the foundation of what this center was going to be for other faculties, but primarily for the students. There was a lot of tension earlier on, late 60s, early 70s, with the rioting around this particular center. And there's another bin that I processed with the Black Action Movement that also corresponds. So an actual activist group that also flourished with the development of this center. And all the students wanted and all the faculty wanted was 10% representation of African Americans on campus. Just 10%. That's not even a big number. You know what I mean? And they wouldn't even give them that. So she really took the charge on trying to really create this center, which she was actually successful in doing. Go to the next one. And this is sort of also what other documents come from that bin. So this is another one with her staff behind her wanting to promote her to a full, for her tenureship. There is a document that has to do with course curriculum, which was this one. I think a report for the summary for the task force of individuals of faculty that actually sort of rallied for the development of the center. So it's just a number of different documents, but all of them come from the exact same bin of professional papers that I processed. Okay, and so when treated as an academic blueprint, the archive also becomes a living curriculum. When treated as living curriculum, one that carries context, responds to community needs, and welcomes co-creation. It offers a teaching framework rooted in legacy where students can see how ideas evolve and add their own. Instead of a fixed syllabus, it becomes a conversation across time, blending ancestral insight with new theories. Through ongoing engagement, storytelling, and responsive teaching, the archive opens into a space for intergenerational learning, cultural care, and visionary scholarship. For instance, I like to say I get to time travel for a living, right? Because that's just pretty cool, right? So for instance, in this document or memory, for the sake of this presentation, I am transported to January 1972. The next one, this one right here. So in this document, I'm transported to January of 1972. Dr. Sudarkasa is an associate professor of anthropology and still goes by her birth name, Gloria Marshall. In this document, she addresses the director at the time, Harold Cruz, for inflammatory allegations. And I'm going to read just a piece of it. And it says, and I brought some copies of what these actual documents look like from the archive. But in this one, it says, to Harold Cruz from Gloria Marshall, associate professor. The subject is false allegations and defamatory statements contained in the draft report of CAS prepared by the internal auditors of the University of Michigan. And she says, if the procedures used in investigating my activities are indicative of the procedure adopted throughout the audit of the center's affairs, and if the misrepresentations, distortions, and errors of fact found in the auditor's statement regarding my activities are indicative of the nature of the entire report, then I must say that I would seriously question the credibility and purpose of the auditor's document. The fact that this is said to be a draft rather than the final official report is of no consequence, inasmuch as the circulation of a written document such as this must inevitably jeopardize my professional career and malign my character. I have notified the auditors that their allegations against me must be immediately retracted and that an apology must be made. Period. Right. And as you can see, this document, there are several pages. So basically, they were trying to say that she was misusing the travel funds, wasn't reporting things properly. Now, she wasn't the director at the time, but a lot of people were also against the development of this center, and definitely her. You're talking about a short, thick, dark-skinned, natural woman in the 70s, early 80s, really advocated for sort of bridging the diaspora in an institution of masculine white power, right? So, and then she goes off in this. I feel like she was being like a slightly, not petty, but she goes into on May 21st, 1971, not June 25th. And then she's like underlining, I paid with my own money. I did this and this and that. So you guys can kind of look at the documents later on, but she really like goes into it. She got lawyers and there's an entire folder dedicated to this. And the one thing I could not find was the draft. I think she had them burn it, erase it. I don't know, but it does not. She said the fact that it even exists. You know what I'm saying? So I guess she didn't want it to get into the wrong hands, but she checked them quick. So yeah. So through this document, Dr. Sudarkasa, or Marshall at the time, is leaving behind blueprints and a guide on how to deal with persons, systems, and institutions that infringe upon the integrity of African and Afro-American peoples. Her agency, resilience, fearlessness, and experiences are representing to us, members of the future, on how to navigate situations that continue to misrepresent and malign Black excellence and integrity. Dr. Sudarkasa was not going to allow anyone to remove her credibility. Therefore, she had all parties accountable for their inflammatory assumptions about her character. Now, a living curriculum is also an expression of intellectual testimony. It bears witness to the lives, labors, and visions that shape the archive. In this image, the caption reads, I'm not going to read it fully, but this is basically showing the amount of work that she actually put into her studies. This is her, this is just a clip of her in an actual publication of getting ready to go to West Africa to study women and the Yoruba women in actual trade, that then later leads to one of her books, Where Women Work, a study of Yoruba women in the marketplace and in the home. And she actually received a Fulbright grant in order to go do research. She lived in a combination of, I think, Benin and Abudan. I can never remember that, for I think about 18 months while she did field work to actually generate this book. Intellectual testimony rooted in her work affirms that knowledge is never neutral or disembodied, but exists in experience, struggle, and care. Each lesson drawn from the archive becomes a form of remembrance and rearticulation, allowing students to engage not only with ideas, but with the people and context behind them. In this way, teaching becomes a ritual of acknowledgement of those who came before, the questions they carried, and the unfinished work we inherit. And for me, this is where legacy is shaped. We can go to the next one. So Dr. Sudarkasa's mentorship through her special collection has granted me permission to build upon what she began. This is me just literally 2 weeks ago, I think October 18th. So every year, AARLCC holds an annual memorial lecture in the name of Dr. Sudarkasa. So we just had the second annual memorial lecture. I wasn't around for the first one, but I did come in for the second one. And this is just me kind of briefly speaking about what my research is about. Also, her mentorship has allowed for this presentation, right? Because without me having access to her primary sources or this fellowship, this project, this presentation that I'm doing before you would not exist, right? Yeah, so through it, I am not only sharing her legacy with future generations, but also making space to shape my own. I've also created a companion website, about 65% done. I have to finish working on it, called Literacy, Leadership, and Legacy, honoring the life of Dr. Niara Sudarkasa, and it's drawn directly from the primary sources. And it serves as a digital repository for scholars, educators, students, and the public. Anyone who wishes to learn more about her life, they can do so. And that is housed directly on AARLCC's website. And then also next month, I'll be visiting as a guest lecturer at North Carolina A&T State University to further share Dr. Sudarkasa's story. There is so much that I could offer. Her impact is vast, it's layered, it's enduring. And to do her justice, I would require at least about a 2-hour time slot, because this 15 minutes is not going to cut it, right? Okay, so if memories could mentor, right? So this question holds deep weight for me. I've been honored with the responsibility of stewarding the legacy of an ancestor whose work is nothing short of monumental. In many ways, she is guiding me, teaching me how to preserve her story with care and how to share it with the world, the scope of her efforts, sacrifices, and visionary intellect. Dr. Sudarkasa's life work was devoted to bridging communities across the diaspora within the realm of higher education and beyond. And I am learning through her archive how memory itself can be a teacher. Ashe, and thank you. Okay, now we